All
Hi.
right, we're back. We're back. Podcast number two.
Number
Talking about we still don't have a name. We're leaning towards like the game and the gun or something like that. But if you guys have suggestions, and really the gist of this whole podcast is about that we're two business owners who kind of think the same, act the same, and have the same pain points, the same struggles, and the same shiny object love. And we're just talking about what's going on in our lives. And hopefully that can help other people to not feel alone, to not feel frustrated, to not quit. And so we're going to share successes and failures. And then we
hey,
are. So that's kind of the intro. I'm
so
Tracy, and
hi
that's
Tracy, and I'm Pat. Tracy's name is Tracy Gunn. I had the idea of Hormozy had the name, the game, right? So it's like because in business it's the game that we play. So I was thinking, okay, so we're both business owners. We the Gun Show because Tracy's last name is Gunn. So it's like I don't know. Tell us what you guys think. So thank you so much. My name is Pat Veracity, and this is Tracy. So yeah, let's get started. Tracy.
all right. All right. So I thought I had a really cool story that I wanted to share. And I thought, well, maybe this could be our like theme this week was about customers. And so, because customers can be awful, right? Like I got a terrible 1-star review this week from somebody, and it was like very like not nice. And anywho, but then, but then I also had the other extreme, which so I'll tell you the story. So I have had my candy store for 18 years. We just celebrated our 18th year in New Hampshire.
Oh
And I
wow.
had this guy, he owned a business, he owned a taxi cab company in our town. And we were chatting, and he overheard me listening to Rush Limbaugh, which that'll date me right there. And he was like, oh, you're like, we are like minded. We at least like the same thing. We started talking, became friends. So, and he would be a customer. He doesn't eat a lot of candy, but he would come in and we would talk. And that's kind of what happens when you have front facing businesses is you kind of like become a people's lives and people stop in to say, hey, whatever. So anyway, and then he worked for me, one of my restaurants. Like he had children, his wife's traveling nurse, like
Oh
anyway, long story short, I haven't seen him in like 9 years. And I had put a post on social media about how December was my worst month ever and my best month ever. And I was crying. I was having like one of those entrepreneurial moments. And he saw it and he said, so he saw it. And so yesterday I opened the door. Well, my staff opens the door and somebody's looking for me. She's like, oh, she's in her office. And he's like, oh, I drove here for her. And it was him. He drove
wow.
2 hours to give me a hug
Oh my.
because he felt sad for me and he wanted me to like to be encouraged. And I was like, I had this jerk who gave me a 1 star, longtime customer, right? And then this other customer slash friend slash employee who drove 2 hours to give me a hug and to give me an amazing Google review because
Wow.
F that guy.
Yes. Yes. That's amazing. Because it's
I mean,
those stories are before I say my story, I was just
yeah,
thinking about my partner because she's Christianity. She said, especially this week, she said to my kids, she's like, be the light. She's like, right, like so much stuff. And she's like, just be the light. Like sometimes I get, and I'm human, and I get negative. She's like, no, be the light. Like don't be that person. Like it's
yeah,
just worth it, right? And as us, we have these stories where we go through where people will give us bad reviews for no reason, right? Whether it's any customers that's just what they look for. That's what makes them happy. That's what gets their juice going. And we either can take that and let it affect us, or we can just move on. And us as entrepreneurs, we don't have a choice but to move on. At least
right.
if we're going,
Yeah,
right. That's
yep.
amazing.
And
Amazing.
that, I mean, so I took like, so we caught, no, again, I lost an hour of my day, lost, right? Because, but he drove all the way there. He got there at 9 a.m. I wasn't open till noon. So he rerouted, he had a hard stop at 1 because he had to go back, drive another hour and a half back to pick up his son to go home. And like, but he did that because he wanted to and because he cared about me. And like, I'm just selling candy. Like, this is not solving world peace. Imagine the kind of customer connection you could have if you were solving world peace and solving their huge problems. Like, I'm just like a candy lady, right? Like serving my community around a long time. He thinks I'm a nice person, and he did that for me. And I was like, and he wanted to come on Sunday. When he saw the post, he was
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, Tracy needs a hug. And he was like, I won't get there in time before she closed. Now it's good because I wasn't there. But like the point was is he wanted to like drop everything and come and encourage me. And I think like that's kind of what we want to do in this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes.
We just want to encourage owners to just keep going. Don't give up. Don't listen to the negative. Focus on the positive, right? Same day, 1 star.
Exactly.
Customer drove 2 hours to encourage me and give me a 5 star. Like, it's amazing.
It's the human nature, right? It's like I
Mhm.
think he can relate. I'm sure he can relate, the same way we can relate. And I think that goes beyond, I think, what we even understand, the human nature. And that also, I know last week we talked about being entrepreneurs, where when people, someone asks us, how's everything, right? We all say, oh, everything's good, everything's good. Like we were raised to say everything is good. And we always hide, right? And I don't know, I think, and maybe times have changed, but I know, me growing up, it's like, even for my parents, like they always hide hard times, right? I mean,
Yeah.
at home sometimes it pops out, but as business owners, it's the same thing. As humans, as we grow and we, it's like you get married, you got the house, you got the car, you got the job, or whatever you want to call it, that business, and then everything is fine. When in life, in reality, not everyone's perfect. Everyone comes imperfect, right? But we're so taught to say that, and I'm saying this leading up to this podcast that we're trying to do, not trying to, we're doing, and it's those things where I struggle with that on where do I put myself out there to the public? Do we put ourselves out there to
Yeah.
social media, to the web, and it scares the crap out of me. It's scary because it's just I'm not used to it. But at the same time, this year, especially alone, at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share my story. I'm going to stop being afraid. I'm going to stop hide behind the curtain
Yeah.
because you ask my family members, they're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you pushing stuff out, right? Because they were so taught to say, don't put yourself out there on the web. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't tell your story. Don't tell
Mhm.
your back. But that helps people. That's the same thing as like from a
Well,
business. Like when I closed my restaurant, I was so ashamed. I did not want to tell people, oh, I closed a restaurant. I did not want to tell people, fail. But, and I'm still learning to lean towards that, to lean
yeah.
towards like failure, to say, that's okay. I'm only human.
Mhm.
And,
It's
and
it's embarrassing. I've never, honestly, I mean, I've probably gone on social media and commented about somebody being a jerk or whatever, but I have never been like this was Christmas Eve morning, and I'm realizing I'm not going to hit my numbers for the month. I'm going to be in debt. What is my best month ever is also my worst month ever and my biggest mistake. And
yeah,
I'm like being honest about it. And I went back and forth like, do I share this? Like, because here's the thing, right? Shame, pride, but
yes,
also like, here's the thing, like this sparked this customer to come say, hey, but maybe, just maybe, other business owners who are feeling that but hiding it and not sharing it will see that and it's like, I'm not the only one who sucks right now. I'm not
ex-
the only one who makes mistakes. I'm not the only one who like made this huge risk and maybe screwed up and now their family's in trouble. Like, right? Because we all do. And that's after, here's the thing. Like for me, I think it hurts a little bit more like now than at the first couple years is because this is
yeah,
18 years in. And
yes,
I thought I calculated really well and it did not work out, right? Now,
yeah,
again, some people would say, oh, 90th in sales, that's amazing, right? Yes. But when you projected 150, not so great, right?
exactly.
And when you purchased accordingly, right? So, but not like, it's not even about the specifics. It's just the point, like, even with the best of intentions and the right focus and the right leveraging and planning and research, you still can mess it up. Like, you
Ex-
could still be wrong. Like I
yeah,
think about, I do take comfort in like all these giant places closing, right? Party City, right? All these, not, I take comfort because if they can't figure it out, I mean, like,
it's
why
funny.
am I so mad at myself? Like,
It's funny to say that, Tracy, because I drove by a Party City this weekend and I saw the sign for closure, and I felt the same comfort.
I was like,
Weird,
oh,
weird, but I was like,
we all suck, not just them.
but it's really because I drove and I was like, not like he bought it. I saw it and it made me feel comfortable.
Yeah,
Like I hate to see them close. Like I was like, oh my gosh, here's another big shop that's closing. But at the same time,
another
like,
one.
oh,
There's a lot of them.
exactly, it's not only me. It's not only me. And
No.
so time after the same thing you said, after 18 years of business,
Yeah.
like it's just a cycle of business, just a cycle of what it is. And then that's
Yes.
to you guys as the audience, like how do we pivot? What do we do? I think, I mean, first thing is, guys, so people can criticize us all day long as entrepreneurs, right? But Tracy, we're in the arena. Like we are the gladiators fighting. We're
Yeah.
here. We're everybody's fighting.
Mhm.
We're there and we're doing it. And we have wins and we have
Mhm.
losses. We have
Yep.
wins. And I think
Yep.
it's, I don't think it's anything that's abnormal.
That's right.
I think as we age, as we go through, people, for example, people get married, people get divorced
Mhm.
later in life, and people get remarried again. It's part of life, and I think business is the same way. It's like how do we move on, and how do we keep going? I think that is to me like what we're doing now as entrepreneurs in business.
Yep.
And we're in the arena. For all you entrepreneurs out there that have small business, we're
Yeah.
in the arena. We're doing it. Like we're not 9 to 5. We're not having that. I mean, what the heck's retirement? Is there going to be any Social Security in retirement?
Right.
Probably change.
Right.
So
Hmm.
about moving and figuring out what we're doing. But it's also now with social media, it's about doing it together and
Yeah.
figuring it out, helping each other. I think that's what we want to bring to guys.
Yes. For
Yes.
real. And I think too, like for me, I feel like small business owners, but first of all, they're my favorite people because they're in the arena. They had the courage to like leave what's comfortable and what everybody does it and swim the other direction. Right.
Ex-
Even my kids after 18 years are like, get a job, mom. Just go get a job because they don't want to worry about me. And I'm like, just, I get it. Like, I get it. But I don't know that I could live I mean, I've worked other jobs, right, while I have my businesses to kind of leverage and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that can be a superpower too. But I think that small business owners are superheroes. Like, they set out on this new adventure, they risk everything. Because you risk when you start a business,
yeah.
you risk your family security, you risk your finances, you risk everything to
Your relate.
follow this dream, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it works out. And if you're starting a business from scratch, like 90% don't work out. And
Yes.
that's because it's hard, not
Yes.
because you're not inadequate, like or you're inadequate. It's because it's hard. It's very hard. And you see these conglomerates that are closing after 100 years or 50 years, or Blockbuster. I use that example of Blockbuster, who owned the world.
Yeah.
And then, have one store left, like one, right? And how can you go from this to this so quickly? Just because technology changes, people change, the environment changes, the economy, like you are again, so superheroes, like we need a place to be safe and speak the same language,
Yeah.
but also a place where we could cheer them on. Like, yay. Because I have to be that for myself. Because
Yes.
my immediate world is not full of those people. Most of
Yes.
them are working 9 to 5s, even my family, even my
Yes.
children who grew up in my business. They're
Yes.
not doing this, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to remember, like, we need to surround ourselves by, like, the scripture that talks about being surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, right?
Yeah.
But that's true in business too. We need people to keep egging us on, and then we can do that for somebody else. And this week, my customer did that for me. How awesome is that?
And we need to know what we need. We need to do it to each other. We need a community
Yeah.
of entrepreneurs that if it's like if corporations can get together, we can get together, right? We can help each other and say, okay, what are you doing right? What am I doing wrong? Even if it's sharing resources, even if it's sharing knowledge or anything like that, I think it's key. I think we need that. I need that. I know you need that, and I'm sure guys out there need that. So
I mean, I think too, like as a parent, you're raising your children. I homeschooled and I stayed at home for a long time, and then I started my business, right? 14
yeah,
years. And the reality is I don't get a report card. I don't get a paycheck. I don't have a good job, mom, right? You get the hugs, you get the
yeah,
kisses, you get the bad stuff, you get the good stuff, but the reality is it's often a thankless job. You just are just doing it because those people matter to you, but you're not
yeah,
getting the reward per se. You're not getting those accolades. I think, again, that's why mom support groups are important, or dad
you're,
support groups, like however, because like some days you just feel like you're messing it all up. And I really equate business and raising children to be very similar because, we're raising somebody from birth, we're birthing something and raising it up. And the goal is that it can be without us, it can grow up and be profitable and fruitful and multiply and eventually pay us back. That's what our
That's
children are supposed to do too.
that's a great analogy. That's what I tell my kids. You guys owe me commission. You guys owe me this for raising.
I
Uh,
told you we're the same person. We are
that,
the
that,
same person.
that's the wish that we. That's what. Even though I didn't do so good with my parents on that end, but that's okay.
It's okay. We got time, right? They're still here. You got that's the thing. You just don't know. You don't know. I feel like so now I'm at this place and I'm like kind of starting over in my candy store. And I was already starting over and I was very ambitious about it, but it was like, okay, setbacks are going to happen. It's like when you're doing from a real estate perspective and you're doing calls, right? And you have to get 100 calls and 100 no's to get the yes. Right? It's
Yeah.
that kind of like how many no's can I get today so I know the yes is coming faster? How many setbacks can I have in the expansion of my candy stores? How many setbacks, how many really tight financial months can I have before the win comes, right? If I can get them out of the way,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to being like lukewarm, right? It's hot or cold for me usually.
Yeah.
So let's get them out of the way and keep going, right? And just it knocks us down. There's like Winston Churchill has this saying about it's not the, hold on a second, I'm going to read it because it's like not mine. But it says success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts.
Yes.
That's Winston Churchill. And I think
Uh,
that, that is what we are as business owners. That is what matters, right? The fortitude to keep going and to keep trying, to keep getting up. They knock us down, we get back up. We knock down, we get back up, right? Sometimes it's a flesh wound. It's just a flesh wound. Remember that movie?
but we were always used to do it by ourselves. I think that's the change that that we're
Yeah.
seeing the war of social media, and then like right now, about like-minded community, small business owner or medium business owner, and getting together. I think forever for me, I've fought it by myself and my
Yeah.
partner for 8 and I realized I need help. I need reach.
Yeah.
I need this conversation just so that I can at least have that therapeutic conversation and that we can move on.
Right.
So how
Well, and go ahead, you go.
no. So how so this week, how's your from a small business? So how's your week? Like what are your plans? What are you doing differently, or what are you doing in terms of planning to get to the next level, right? Or to have a
Yeah.
better like
Well,
sales week.
it's the end of January, right? And so
Yeah.
January, usually for business people, is our time of reflection, our time
Okay.
of planning, a time of assessment, self-assessment, reassessment, not just in the business, but what do we want? Like, do I want to keep doing this, right?
Yeah.
I used to do that with homeschooling too. Same thing. Like, you take every year, I would be like, is this working? Is it not working? Do I want to keep doing this? Do I not? Is there a better solution, right? And that's true in business. Like, if we are not taking that time to be like, man, that year sucked. I hated that.
Yeah.
Or this was good. This was bad. What did I learn? Like, I made a list of all the things I learned this year. It is crazy what I learned. Like, it would
Wow.
blow your mind. If you want like to like shift from like feeling sorry or like feeling sad about stuff and frustrated and shift to like being grateful, when you list all the things you learned by going through, we learn always because it's hard. We go through it, right? We learn faster. I made a list of what I learned. And I was like, holy mackerel. Like this was a learning year. 24 was a learning year, right? But now, so I'm in January, the first couple of weeks, everyone's on a diet, at least in the candy world. So like it's quiet. I was traveling. Hadn't seen my husband in 2 months because I was in North Carolina. He was in New Hampshire. So we went to Cancun. But like I was like, okay, it's my time to like refresh and just take a minute. Didn't change the realities. It just
Yeah.
gave me a minute to like, okay. And then to think clearly, right? And then be like, okay, what do I need to fix? What do I want to give up on something? So it's okay to close. You closed a restaurant. I've closed a restaurant. I've closed a candy store. Like but you have to look at it and think, okay, not just emotion. And you should pray about it. You should think, but also, what do you even want? Like, if you want to have freedom and time freedom and security, business owner's probably not for you.
Yes.
right? If you want consistency and not and to be able to leave and clock out at 5 and go on vacation and not have phone calls, business ownership is probably not for you. And that's
Exactly.
okay. It's okay to be in it and change your mind.
Yes.
Because things do not, the only time you really can't is when you have children. You think, I want children. And then you get them, you're like, oh, can't
We're
change
all
your mind.
we it's all guilty to have that thoughts.
Right. We all have. And mine are grown. And some days I'm like, I wish I could go back. And other days I'm like, whew, not my job anymore. Right. So, like, but I mean, the reality is like, okay, that's what January is. So, like, now I flew back to North Carolina and now it's time to deal with the nonsense. Like, okay, I have enough inventory to open 3 more stores. Okay, let's go. I need to
Yes.
open this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. But then the other part is I found, and I know you and I both, Pat, have been working on our calendars and really
Yes.
just getting clear and being very effective with our time is when I was traveling and stuff, hard to do the calendar, right? So I'm back and I was like, okay, I stayed up till midnight last night just getting my calendar straight. So setting up, for me, this works. Everybody's different, but like getting everything out of my head, all the things I have to remember to do, all the things that I know I need to do, all the things that I have to find time to do. I just made a spreadsheet and I made a tab for each business and each opportunity, and I started just listing them there, and then I can take them from there and plop them into my calendar and plot them out, and then I know they're plotted, and so I mark down whether they're plotted. But like for me, I love the calendar. I love that it tells me what I'm supposed to be doing today, what I'm supposed to be accomplishing in that time block, and sometimes it doesn't work out and you just move it over to the next
I
day.
You're great at that. I'm gonna need your help with that because I
We got
started,
this.
then I dropped off, then the kids
Yeah,
kicked in.
I just started. I just
I
did it last night.
like you encourage me, when we go over those things because I know you're doing it.
It's mostly just so it's out of my head. Like, right? Because the thing is I'm when you're telling yourself, like, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh gosh, I have to remember to do that tomorrow. And you try to go back to bed, but that's your brain is like still like, I have to remember that. I have, but if you write it down in a place, now I don't do this all the time, but like that's the goal, right? Is to just get it. Or I have a great business idea, but I'm not going to do it right now. I have a place to put that. So I don't have to hold on to it and remember and keep it. I can just put it, it's there, and I can come back to it. I lost you, Pat. It's the Tracy show. So anyway, I lost Pat. I'm sure he's still here. I could keep talking. I could talk all day. And he dropped out. I guess I'm talking. So anyway, so that's kind of what I started this week. If you want and you want to put in the comments, I'll send you my, like, what my setup looks like. Oh, he's back.
Tracy, I
Yeah,
lost you. I
I know
lost
you did. I was here. You were not here.
the Home Depot on our rehab project. Home Depot called me probably like 3 times and they knocked me out. So that's what happened. That's
Oh, sorry. Yes, small business. That's life. There's my husband.
the thing is, Tracy, just the way I pivot down.
Yeah.
Just Home Depot called me. I'm doing a rehab for an investor. Home Depot called
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
I got the card registered to a Home Depot account. They
Yep.
called. My workers are there. They're ordering. They're buying a door. I gave them a registered card. They paid. It took me 5 minutes of us interrupting time, and they're there. They're
Now
doing
it's
it,
done.
and that was
And it's
done.
done.
And I'm here, and this is the pivoting part for the new business that I'm working on. They're
Uh-huh.
working here, and we're doing a podcast that at least
Yeah.
allow where I'm not having to physically go out there to do it.
Yes.
So
I,
that's the goal. Sorry, I didn't know what I missed. That's
no,
actually
no,
good.
no. That's okay. What I was saying was, is like I just created this thing because I'm always trying to figure out a new tool because there's all this AI and there's not. Sometimes it's just going simple. Like when things are messy and you feel overwhelmed, I just remind myself, this kind of works for me, is to go back to what the beginning. I think it says it in scripture too. It's like go back to what you did at first. Like
Yeah.
because then you go back to the foundational things that got you through, right? Because if the foundation's shaky, and that's what we do when we help people with their businesses, is we go back to like, okay, how's the foundation? Like, are your foundational things good? Do you have consistent customers? Do you have consistent fulfillment? Do you have consistent employees? Do you do you have a system? Do you have inventory? Those are the basics, which we forget, right? We get ahead and we don't, and then those things kind of fall apart, and those things make everything possible. Now, when you're starting, you're figuring it out, but like 18 years in, I have to go back. So that's what happened in New Hampshire. I went back and I was like, okay, I have all these checklists, I have all these systems, so I can do these other businesses. I'm like, all right, we're going to reformat this. We're going to redo it. We're going to go back to the beginning and be like, okay, every staff person is going to report. I'm going to check in with you every day to make sure you did. Like, we got to go back to the beginning. And so that's kind of same thing for me, like with planning my week. Like, okay, it's in my head. Put it on paper. I am one person. I am not going to have enough time to get to everything. But if I start knocking them off, eventually I'll have my backlog, but I'll have some time and I'll have some peace of mind because I don't have to. Does that make sense? So anyhow, that's
That
kind of what I'm
does.
doing this week. So I was putting it when you've dropped off. I was like, oh, if you want my like what I do, we'll do a little video and I'll share it with you. So just put it in the comments if you want it. But I
Yeah.
mean, just do it. Like
Yes.
just do it. Make it messy.
Yes.
Spend 5 minutes and do it. Get it out of your head, get it onto paper, and then start plotting it. Just easy.
See, I need that help. So I suck at that. So I wake up shooting. I wake up, I'm like, I don't have a map. I just wake up shooting. Well, I do, but naturally, that's my natural instinct. Just
Yeah,
wake up.
same.
Go. Yeah, just wake
That's
up.
survival mode. That's
Yes.
survival.
So I'm going to work on that too. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to need that help, and I'm going to work on that. Yes.
Yeah.
But
And I'll do a little Loom that we can share. Like I'll do like a Loom or a video that we can share and put in the comments for the podcast, just so people could see like this is kind of what we're talking about. And then we could do a bigger one if we wanted to record that just breaks it down. I mean, this is from Pace, right? And everyone's going to find their own variation, but
yes,
you're going to find a variation that works for you better than me, right? So
amazing. Well, that's been amazing today, Tracy. I think, guys, on the next one, we're going to go a little bit longer. We're going to talk a little bit more. But I
yeah,
think this is a great podcast. This is our podcast number 2, and I think it's amazing. I love it. So, um,
forward imperfect motion.
yes, yeah,
That's ownership. I mean, if you could summarize like that for me, that is like that symbolizes what entrepreneurship is forward imperfect action, right? If you're not willing to act, you're not really in business. But if you at least you're falling forward and failing, that's cool, but you're moving.
exactly. And you're not alone, and we're here for you, and we're
Yeah,
all
for real.
so,
You got this. We got you.
yes. Well, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you guys again this time next week.
Hmm?
Same time, same.
Woohoo! Hope it's
Tracy,
a great week for
high
everybody.
five. Let's do a high five.
I love it.
Okay.